Hello, today we're going to go through the configuration of a Fodler Type 18 differential pH electrode. What we want to do is we want to show you the parts that you are going to need to accomplish this. There's a lot of good information that we need to share with you on this. And to point out, because the Fodler probe is a fixed slope sensor, the way it's configured and calibrated is a bit different than what you may be used to, certainly with a MemoSense, but also even with one of our glass combination analog pH probes. So when you go to configure, a couple things, more than a couple of things, a few things you need to have is one, the cable. There is a specific cable used with a Fodler differential type 18. You also need the test certificate, which is right there. And then with the multi, which is what we're going to use for the configuration, you have to have an analog input card. Because the way this works with a multi is that you're not using channel 1, you're using channel 2, which is the card that you would order. That is the MK-PH 015N, and that slides in here. And then you can see the wiring of the Fodler cable. Okay, so once you have it wired up, have all this closed, close the door, you then want to make sure that you have the cable plugged into the electrode. Now, something I want to point out, it is a keyed cable, so it will only go in one way. So you bring it down, snaps in place, and this portion slides down over top to protect it. Now, for those of you who can read upside down, it says do not twist connection. You want to do everything possible to prevent twisting that part that I slid down over the sensor. Reason is you can damage that connection, so just slide it off like I showed you. Connect the connector into the top of the Type 18, hear the snap, then slide that white portion back over top of it without turning it. So now we'll go ahead and move on to the configuration. Now you're going to need, as I mentioned before, the test certificate with the sensor that you have ordered. So the customer needs to make sure when they open the box, this will be in a clear plastic protective sleeve. They need to make sure they have this because there's information on here that we need to take and put into the multi to make the Type 18 function correctly. So we'll go ahead and start by hitting menu, go into parameter settings. I'm going to go down to administrator level, and I've got the passcode turned off. Actually, I have it set to 0000, so all I have to do is hit enter. I scroll down to sensor selection, and what you need to do, as I said, we're going to be using channel 2, so I need to make sure that channel 1 is turned off. In this case, it is. That's perfect. I'll go into channel 2, and now I need to make sure I select the MK card, the MK-PH, and of course for analog, because this is an analog pH electrode. It's identifying the module. So then I come up to General, Measurement Display. Now this is already set up, but I want two values shown on my output channel 1, but I want it to be transmitting my input channel 2, which is analog pH. My first value is going to be the pH value, and my second is going to be the temperature value, and that's what's going to be shown on the display of the transmitter. Then I come down to analog pH, channel 2. I go into sensor data, and here I need to make sure, and it's already set up to Fodler differential, which is what this is. A Type 18 is a differential pH probe. You have Fodler standard, and then just standard, in this case, Fodler differential. We're going to leave the senso face turned off. We also need to identify what RTD or temperature detector is being used. And here it's a PT100, which is what we already have selected. So I hit enter, and then I leave measuring temp and cal temp to auto. So leave those auto. Then I come into sensor monitoring details. So this is very critical. We're going to adjust only the slope and 0 point here. The rest we'll leave alone. So let's start with the slope. So I hit enter. Make sure it's set to individual. And we're only going to adjust the nominal slope. Now, on this particular probe, the nominal slope is 53.6. All right, that is what we need to put into right there. So I hit enter. Next, I'm going to adjust the 0 point. Again, make sure it's set to individual. The 0 point for this type 18 is 11.08. Done. So we hit back, back. Okay, and now we're going to go into calibration. Of course, channel 1 is turned off, but we want to go into channel 2, analog pH. And we want to do data entry. Now, this is when you initially configure the Type 18. When we have it in the tank and want to do product calibrations, that's different. But on the initial configuration of a Type 18, you want to go into calibration mode, data entry. Hit proceed. 0 point, 11.08. Sometimes that'll be different, so you want to make sure, again, you're using the value off the test certificate. The slope, 53.6, which it does match the test certificate, so we're good there. And isothermal point is 3. Now, where you find that value is not on the certificate, but in the Canic Stratos Multi manual. So you go to the manual and it'll tell you for a Fodler type 18 differential, the isothermal point. Okay. Going to hit adjust. And now the Type 18 is configured. So we just finished the configuration of the Type 18. Now we're going to do a process calibration. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the Type 18 Fodler differential probe is a fixed slope electrode. So the idea with this type of technology is that you're able to do a process calibration, which effectively means you leave the probe in the process, you do not remove it. You take a grab sample, and then you have that grab sample analyzed, and that could be using a Portavo with a pH probe, measuring it, or taking the sample to the lab. So that way you have a known good value. And to do that, it's pretty straightforward. So right now, it's reading 7.93. Again, we just configured this, and I currently have it in a buffer 7. So something I want to mention here is that this has been soaking in a buffer 7 overnight. So what we recommend is that if you're taking a brand new Type 18 out of the box, because of the design of that technology where you have a sodium ion selective band on the bottom, hydrogen ion selective band on the top, those two white bands, you want to hydrate the probe before you actually put it in process. Now, if it's already in process, you can assume that it's already hydrated, but if you're going to put it in for the first time, you want to soak it overnight in a buffer 7. That's fine. That way, when you go to put it in and you do your process cal, it won't drift as it rehydrates. But for this video, we're going to assume it's already been in process or soaking overnight. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with that product calibration or PCal. So to do that, I hit menu, I hit enter for calibration, and then of course I'm going into channel 2 analog pH, and it's already set for product cal. So I hit proceed. Product calibration, calibration by sampling and entering pH value. So what you do is you hit next at this screen. So you see that it says it's sampling, and we're going to save the current pH value that it's reading. Okay, so we don't have the value yet, the lab sample value. So I hit save. Then I hit close. So of course at this point you're taking your grab sample, you're going back to the lab, whatever the case may be, but you'll notice while you're gone, this little calibration beaker is going to be on the top of the screen indicating that it's currently in a process calibration. So it's waiting. Now it's going to function, it's still going to read, but it's waiting for someone to come back and finish that process cal. Okay, step 2 is where we're going to enter the lab value. So I hit proceed. Step 2, enter lab value. Now again, this could be a measurement value off of a Portavo, or it could be the actual value from the lab. And in this case, our sample that we took is a pH value of 7. So that is the number that I plugged in here, is a pH value of 7. So I hit enter. Then I hit next. So now you can see it's telling me that I'm doing a product calibration. My 0 point is 10.16. Slope is 53.6 millivolts. Isotherm point is 3. So I'm going to go ahead and say adjust. Adjustment successful. I'm going to put the system back in measurement. And now we're reading the actual value. Notice it was orange in color. It was still in hold mode, so it just finally came out of hold. So we're currently measuring the pH buffer 7, 73.5 Fahrenheit, and we're in measurement mode. That is how you complete a product calibration for the Type 18. Thank you.